Hi everyone, this is Abel. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about all the books that I'm planning to read during the summer and honestly, probably during the rest of the year. This is going to be great. Let's get ready. But before we start, remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video. You can also support the channel by checking out my own epic fantasy novel, The Crimson Fire. The link is in the description down below. Let's start with a bang, with an Exile of Water and Gold by Joshua Walker. This was actually a copy sent me by the author. Let's take a look to this beautiful artwork by Jeff Brown, who's a wizard. Everything he touches becomes gold, pun intended. And this is an epic fantasy story that is set in a world when we have this massive tree, the one you see on the cover, which is so massive that it actually encompasses an entire nation, and of the struggle and political machination around the complicated relationship between this nation, the people who lives and have this symbiotic relationship with the tree, and a lot of things happening and going on there. So the story is really well done. I am loving the characters. I'm loving the kind of research that went into creating such a peculiar world building, such a peculiar place to explore, because the people, the tree dwellers living in that tree, they're granted special ability because of their relationship with the tree, and those abilities are sought after, let's say, by other nations, and they come with a lot of consequences and burden on the political scheme of this world. So it's big, it's political, it's unique, and it has this grandiose atmosphere with a grand scope, a lot of characters, a lot of political intriguing, and a really unique world building. So that's what made it absolutely, really very much interesting for me. The production quality is really high. This is one of the best paperbacks that I have ever had in my house. Look at how floppy the pages are. This is an incredibly good writing and reading experience. Let me show you a little bit of the insides of the book. We have a beautiful map here, and then every chapter has a little bit of a decoration here. Okay, when you change character, those chapter headers, they change too. Okay, so beautiful book, really interesting story. I'm reading this right now, and I'll give you a review pretty soon. Spoilers alert, I think I'm going to love it. Let's continue with a big epic fantasy story by Vaughn Roycroft. This is The Severing Son, with a beautiful cover illustration by Anthony Di Giovanni. You see the full wrap here. This is an epic fantasy story about a prophecy and about someone who doesn't believe in the coming of this supernatural human being, this chosen one that could change the future of the world. Someone who will not so happily discovers that that chosen one may be part of an invading force, or from a nation that could be part of a larger conflict. Let's take a look to the description on the back. It says, "Tales of the bringer of Urinan had been told for generations, but never had the prophecy felt so near to so many. Elan, I think is the protagonist, wasn't sure if she ever believed one man could cause the sort of upheaval that would change the world. And yet, just as the prophecy foretold, dark forces were on the rise, including the many Spali war bands riding across the borderlands. It was in pursuit of one such warband when Elan's host discovered the hidden compound of an outcast. And it looks like that the son of the outcast matches perfectly that prophecy about this chosen one, but he is part of another kingdom, of another tribe, and they have problems. Elan, the protagonist, has problems with that other tribe. That's an interesting conflict, especially because it takes its own spin on the concept of the chosen one, and it puts the discovery of that incredible human being in a position that creates tension for the character, for their own backstory, and they have to face this tension to try and understand what they want to do with the future, is a really interesting way to spin around a concept that is so familiar for us, the one of this and of the Chosen One. And also this one looks so very well researched and so very well done. Vaughn Roycroft is a gem of a human being. He was part of the same team of sub-judges with me for the last edition of the SPFBO, the Spiff box, how we dearly and endearly call it last year. It was a joy to work with him, and I have heard only beautiful things about this book. The reviews are stellar. This looks like it will be one of my favorite of this year, and I can't wait to give it a try and read it and give you a review. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. Let's try something different. This is a review copy of Ludik and the Runaway Mountain by John Ilho, with a beautiful wraparound illustration by Jeff Brown. This one too. Take a look. This has to be one of the prettiest books that I own in my library, and feel really lucky to have a review copy of this. This is about a boy that he's that set of actually tracking down and stopping a mountain, an actually runaway mountain that destroyed his village. And he has to find unlikely allies and understanding what's actually going on, and then trying and learning and growing up and understanding if he can actually go against the mountain. I think this is supposed to be a young adult book or upper young adult book, but it doesn't look like this is going to be easy on the characters. Okay, it looks like pretty mature on an emotional level as a story. For this one too, the reviews are really good, and the production quality of the book too is incredible. This is one of those books that makes your library look better just because of how incredible it looks. And yeah, the story is sounds pretty unique too. I want to know if this mountain is an actual mountain, or if it is a way to refer to something else. But we have a mountain on the cover. What is going on? I want to know. This is another one that I will for surely read during the summer, probably until the end of September. But yeah, I want to read it and let you know what I think about it. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. The Toll of Fortune by A.J.R. Klopp. This is also a review copy, and I think this is one of the rare cases when I know absolutely nothing about how the story will develop. I mean, we have a pretty good description of the inciting incident, but since it's so unique on a world-building point of view, since it tackles a specific and so ancient period of time, this is one of the few times when I really know nothing about it. I don't know what to expect, because we are so trained, you know, to go for the usual, so familiar and very well beloved epic fantasy that has this medieval aesthetics, sometimes a little bit nearer to us on the historical side of things. We are getting more acquainted with other kinds of aesthetics, with a book set with an Asian setting, something like African settings too. But this one sounds really weird and unique. The gist of the story, as far as I can understand from the description, is that we have a warrior tasked with going against elder gods resurfacing, and they're going to claim the land. But it also said that it sweeps across the Neolithic and the Copper Age, from the Don River to the Danube, invoking the primary rhythm of daily life from the first Indo-Europeans' culture and genetic ancestor to nearly half the modern world people. That's why it sounds so unique, because the Copper Age, I have never read anything set in that distant past. And to write something like this, there must have been done a ton of research to make it significant and relevant. And why bother setting a novel so distant in the past with this specific kind of aesthetic, if not to shine a light to a different world, to something that's so distant from our modern life that it sounds completely alien. And the book is also rich with illustrations. I know there's poems too, because that's it was one of the selling point that the authors told me when he was pitching the book to me. So we have rhymes here, and we have additional material, other illustrations. It sounds really, really unique and really well executed and really well done. And since it's so unique and since it's so original, yeah, I think I'm going to fast track this, but I want to read it really, really soon, and I'm going to give you absolutely a review. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. Hostile Contact by Nick Snape. This is the first book in the Weapons of Choice series. Okay, this is a military science fiction and space opera about a failed military training exercise, an alien incursion, a desperate hunt for the truth, survival. It's all the good things that we love in military sci-fi. And this is part of a larger series. I think we have 7 or 8 books, and I have them all. I decided to show you just the first one because we really don't have time to show them all, but the author was generous enough and he trusted me enough to send me the whole series. I am sure this will be good because I have read another book by Nick Snape. It was A Dragon of the Veil. It was a dark epic fantasy story. And keep your eyes peeled because that book is going to have a re-release with a new cover. It's not like the first one was bad, but I have seen a glimpse of that new cover, and it is incredibly, incredibly good. That book was solid for me, pretty entertaining, and I had the feeling that there was potential to have an even better story. And I think this is going to happen with this one too, because if you see, the first volume is pretty short, but as the series goes on, I have all the volumes, so I can tell you they become chunkier and chunkier. And the author himself explained that he wanted it to be to have a small scope at the beginning, a pretty intimate story, a survival story with this group of unlikely heroes, which is a group of rookies in the military, and with only one member, the trainer, who's more experienced. And the story is about this man who's kind of a hero down on luck that is being punished with teaching rookies to be in the armies. And the story is about him trying to survive and of all those young members of the army trying to survive with him and fighting back against the invasion. And the story goes from there and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and stop because we have this intergalactic story, this intergalactic conflict going on. So I'm pretty pumped about it. Not only because the story sounds interesting, but I don't know why it remembers me of The Expanse so much. Because of the aesthetic, probably, of how the characters looks. This guy here looks so much like the protagonist of The Expanse, the captain of the Rocinante. That's a good thing, it's a win for me. I'm really, really excited about this. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. Wistful Ascending by JCM Berne. This is the first book in the Hybrid Helix series. The first arc, at least, because this looks like the series will be pretty long and divided in arcs. This is a science fantasy story. Think of it like superheroes in space, with spaceships, of course, and exploration of planets, and a big, huge conflict. The protagonist of this story is a half-human, because as far as I can understand by the description of the book, the Empire used this genetic manipulation to create human beings that have also alien DNA, and that's why they have superpowers from this one. I think the illustration here is by Chris McGrath, which is one of my favorite artists working in the industry, both trad pub and indie books. And it looks like this as a very witty and quippy and fun tone, even if the scope of the story is pretty big and we have pretty dramatic events and large-scale conflict. Looks like we're going to have a very good time with this one. The reviews for these stories are sky high. This must be one of the most well-beloved indie series that have been floating around, and we're really happy that the author decided to send me this review copy. I feel really lucky. Looks incredible. This series went through a redesign of the typography. I think it changed the way the title is written here and on the back, on the spine too, but otherwise the illustration is the same. It looks incredible. I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish it. If you have read it, let me know what you think about it. Last Among Equals by Peter J. Aldin. This is another work of art by Jeff Brown, this incredible artist that makes all the books worth buying just because they look so incredibly amazing. Look at this illustration in detail. This is absolutely great. So this is a classic epic fantasy story about an invasion and two warring kingdoms that have to become unlikely allies to face this invasion. And we have two main characters. One is an old nobleman and also warrior that has a troubled past because he has been exiled and shunned because of something that happened to his father. And he has to work with an apprentice from this other country. And she's called Prey. And she has supernatural abilities, but she doesn't feel ready to use those abilities. And she has to understand if she has to use them to try and face this invasion. It says that we have this monstrous horde of creatures called the Terral that are going to try and invade those two countries. And the end of the description is pretty atmospheric. And it says, in a world where old grudges run deep and new horrors emerge, Eric, which is this old warrior, and Prey must learn to trust each other or else bear witness to the destruction of both their homelands. This sounds incredible. This is the kind of epic fantasy story that robs me from my sleep. And look at how floppy the paperback is. Yeah, I have a soft spot for a book that have this kind of paper when the pages just basically they stay open even without you trying to force in them. And I have a grudge about especially my position because, you know, I'm based in Italy. Most of the books that I read are in English. I will say that the quality of the books in Italian that I read, most of the paperback and hardcovers that I have, they're pretty high quality. But for books in the original language, in English, I have to rely on authors deciding to send me ARCs. I think this looked like 99% of the book that you can actually buy. But it was produced before the launch, so it is called as it is defined as an hard copy. But as I was saying, I have to buy books from the UK. And what happens with the UK books is that they look good, but they don't feel good when you actually read them because the paper is really cheap. So the covers are really good, the dust jackets are really good, but the paper, it cracks when you try to open. It's so easy to crack the spine because the paper is so cheap. So when I see something like this, which is actually indie published with this kind of quality, yeah, it's a win for me. I'm really proud of authors who are able to deliver something like this, which is actually so high quality that is actually better than many traditionally published books. And it sounds so good and it looks so good. Yeah, I'm really hyped about this. If you have read this, and if you have read anything about P.J. Aldin, let me know, because he generously decided to give me another book. I think this is a novella. It's a prequel to another story, and you cannot find this edition anymore because the cover has been redesigned. This is a special edition, I think, and it's called Exclusion Zone. It says unnumbered and ungunned. Her ship destroyed, her backup days away, and the only place to hide is the most feared planet in colonized space. Private Westerman's bad day at work just become the worst day of her life. high-stakes action-adventure from the author of Third Contact and Eventide. So yes, this is the prequel to a larger, I think it's a trilogy of space opera book. Thank you, Pete. I can't wait to read this, and if you have read anything by Pete, let me know. Another epic fantasy story by Timothy Wolff. This is Platinum Tainted Darkness. Watch for what an incredible book cover. What an incredible cover. This is about a war between man and gods, and it sets up an interesting conflict because we have a guild of knights who are supposed to stay away from the politicking of this world because they are trained to fight against those gods. But it looks like the life that they do forces them to stay away from their family, to leave behind those kind of relationships, you know, with loved ones and romance and all the rest. Something happens, she's offered the ability to do more, to have supernatural abilities by one of those gods that she's supposed to fight against them. And she's placed in a position of conflict because one of the nations that has been invaded her own original country when she came from. So her decision to stay away from the politics, or her abilities to stay and to leave behind a kind of internal conflict and to see everything from a higher stand, okay, and being apolitical there, that position crumbles because she has a connection with the people that will be directly struggling because of that invasion. And I very much love that kind of conflict. I love especially when we have war between humans and gods. That kind of conflict is so primal. It speaks to me so much on a deep level. And that's why I have that kind of conflict on my books too. So yeah, I can't wait to read this one. This is actually a redesign. There's a new cover for this one, and I have the whole trilogy. And I'm not showing because we don't have time, but all the books, they look incredible. And the series is actually pretty short and sweet. I think all the books are around, how many pages? Less than 400 for sure. We are around 360 for the first book, and I think that the other two books are around this page count too. So Platinum Tainted Darkness, the first book in the Legacy of Bulam. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish reading it. Cold Rising by Rohan O'Dowell. This is a very short story set in Mars, I think, and it's about a special agent who's trapped within the bowels of Mars with no means to escape. The device that imprisons the trauma within them is about to fail. What does it mean? And the past terrors kept hidden by it must be contained for this agent's sanity and everyone's safety. It sounds kind of dystopian, not only space opera. I think this device is imprisoning something that happened in this past, and it helps keep him safe and sane, and it's malfunctioning. It makes for a really interesting conflict. What is going on? This is one of the two books that Rohan sent me a couple of months ago, and will absolutely read it before the end of the summer because it's short and sweet. And I need a palate cleanser between big huge chunkers that I usually read. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish reading it. Let's try some lit RPG, shall we? This is Children of the Cold Moon, and we have the pen name of the author is the Longwinded one, who they're also hosts of a podcast about lit RPG and epic fantasy story. This is, I think it's the first book in a series. It's called The Four Treasures Saga, and it's about a guy, Berne, who gets pulled into the Celtic otherworlds. If you know anything about lit RPG, they have a strong component of portal fantasy. We usually have a normal guy, the normal protagonist, that gets pulled into another world. And lit RPG, they're a fusion between epic fantasy story, classic fantasy stories, and video games. And role-playing games in particular. So you're supposed to have those mechanics typical to games. When you grind, you acquire new materials, you forge your weapons, you create your characters, you go against you go walk through dungeons, you fight monsters, and you level up. Okay, depending of how much of a lit RPG or role play elements you have in the story, you have more or less of those stats in the story. For example, I have read Dark Town by Palmer Pickering, which was lit RPG, but was very light on the role play mechanics. So it read basically like a classic epic fantasy story. I'm not sure how much of those mechanics I will have in this story, because as I told you, the subgenre is so wide and you can have varying percentages of those kind of mechanics in different stories and series. But it sounds really interesting, especially because it sets up an interesting internal conflict, and that's what piqued my interest, because it says that Berne has discovered that in this world there is an ancient evil resurfacing, of course, and he has to embark on a journey to retrieve relics to go and fight against those ancient evils. But it says also that the real struggle is to discover, to face his past. So there's something really heavy on his shoulders, something that happened that is taking him back, holding him back. So it's a coming of age story, probably. So he has to face this struggle to become the hero that he is supposed to be, and to face his inner demons, you know. That's what makes it really interesting. And the illustration is pretty great too. So yeah, I can't wait to give it a try. If you have any suggestions about really good lit RPG stories, let me know, because I want to read more of them, and I want to really get to know really well this subgenre. The Wrong Stop by Rex Burke. This is a sci-fi adventure about a group of friends who are traveling around Europe, and they meet a mysterious shadowy figure, and then this cat and mouse chase begins. They're running away because they discovered something they were not supposed to discover. They know too much, and they have to run away city by city, trying to survive, and to survive to those shadowy forces. This has been described to me like a very funny, really quippy, really witty story. It is short and sweet. I think we are in less of 300 pages. It's more actually, 329 stories. And if you see the other publications by Rex Burke, you'll see that he has this kind of fun quality to his story, and I wish and I hope it will be able to mesh this kind of funny adventure with quippy lines and a lot of funny dialogues, with some hard-hitting moments that makes the adventure and the stakes pretty high. I have high expectation, because this was suggested to me from another author, a fellow author, and she only had great words to support this author. And since he has many other books out, if I love this one, it will be a match made in heaven, because I will have many more books to read. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped for this one. The Wrong Stop by Rex Burke. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish reading it. The Freeing of the World by A.M. Knight. This is the first book in a 5-book epic series called Union of Men. I have all 5 books in the series, and they're all pretty short and sweet. So I should be able to finish the series as I'm reading a huge tome by Brandon Sanderson, you know. That's my intent at the very least. But let's focus on the first one. So this is an epic fantasy story about various kingdoms that are forced to work together to face a mortal enemy. A generation's sacrifice frees the world, but everything they've done could be undone if the king remains incapable of getting an heir. A kingdom risks being divided, plots are hatched to find a successor, and desperate people gamble on crossing the forbidden ocean. So there's this huge conflict looming on the horizon, and I like the fact that the palpable resolution lays behind cooperation between different countries. I think it's a good thing to tackle, especially the way the world is going on today, and the fact that most of the news we see um, tell a very different story of division between countries and war and hatred. Also has a beautiful illustration by Jeff Brown, of course, the Wizard, the Magic Man. All the covers in this quintet 5-book series look really, really good, and I'm really grateful to the author for sending me the whole series and trusting me with the whole series. And I'll let you know what I think about those when I finish them. I think they have, by the point that this video is online, the whole series has been published, or the last one will be published really soon. So it's a complete series. You can go check it out. If you like the first one, you can binge read the whole thing in a matter of days. Stone and Tide by Z.S. Diamanti. This is the second book in an epic fantasy story that it's very much inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, with humans and orcs and a huge scope, big battles, a very nice pacing, and this bright and vibrant world building. This is the second book in the series. The first one was Stone and Sky. I loved it so much. And I have really high expectation for this one too, because the second book is the make it or break it of every series, but judging by the reviews, this one is really good too. So yeah, I'm going to read it pretty soon, before the end of the summer, of course. Sordaneon by L.L. Stephens. Not gonna lie, this is one of my probable 5 stars book from the next couple of months. The author was so generous to send me the whole series, and it sounds incredible. This is about a world when we have god machines, remains of god machines that grant people incredible power, and we have incredible powers, and we have the protagonist Dorilian Sordaneon, who's bound to be to the real. So those machines are called real, which are quasi living artifact that spends contents and powers and grants powers and privilege to a few select human being. Unfortunately, decades after seizing control of the remaining god machines, those few privileged, they don't want to give away that power, and that's the inciting incident, the status quo of a world that is going to war. Of course, we have 5 books out. The 5th book was released recently, and the 6th one, I think is the end of the series, will be released at the end during next year, of course. For this one, this is one of those hidden gems. This is not an especially popular series, but everyone who has read the first book, the first couple of books, they all say, this is great, this is big, this is supposed to be a pillar stone in epic fantasy, in modern epic fantasy, because it is that good. And I was supposed to have an interview with the author a couple of weeks ago, but then life happens and I was forced to cancel it. But I will have L.L. Stephens in my channel with an interview for this series, because I'm so hyped. I don't know why, but since I saw the cover for this one, and by the way, all the books, they look incredible. All 5 books, they have incredible covers, incredible artworks. They look so unique. And there's this mixture between the classic old style epic fantasy covers and a modern twist. They look incredible, okay? You should buy them on physical copy if you can afford them. But this sounds like Robin Hobb, Johnny Wirtz, Mercedes Lackey, those kind of giants in the epic fantasy literature that they're able to give you incredible world building, incredible character development, heart-wrenching plot twist, and larger scope, epic in an epic world with huge conflicts. That's the kind of epic fantasy story that burns my mind when I find one of those. And so hyped to have the chance to read the whole series. So I will absolutely read this one pretty soon. Hopefully a couple of books before the end of the year, and I'll let you know what I think about it. If you haven't read this, and you have a strong opinion about this, let me know what you think about it, because I need to find someone to discuss about this book. If you want to do a buddy read, let me know. Absolutely, let me know. Bloodwoven by GJ Terral with a illustration by Cristina Leone, an Italian artist. I'm really proud, strangely proud about it. So this is a Norse-inspired story about a man that it's almost unalived. He's on the brink of annihilation, but then someone to help me grants him a mark that is also some kind of a curse, and to take it away after he survives. So it works in a way. It's an interesting conflict, but he doesn't want to have that mark because it somehow it makes it impossible for him to have a peaceful life, because he was ready to retire as far as I can understand from the description. He wants to take away that mark, but in order to do that, he has to accept a job and go on and try to kill a man that he considered a friend. That's weird. That's interesting. That's a heart-wrenching conflict. And I want to know why we have a baby on the cover. Who's this baby? He's the protagonist, a baby daddy, and he didn't expect to have to be a baby daddy. I don't know. That's interesting. And I like the art style. I like the cover. The whole trilogy is out by now. So if you binge read the first one and you love the first one, I'm pretty sure you're going to finish it pretty soon and to binge read the whole thing in a matter of days. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it. And if you have read this, let me know what you think about it. And thank you to the author for this incredible review copy. The Visionary by Matt Sparrow. This is a fantasy story, science fantasy story about a nobleman who... He's supposed to be a duke. He's supposed to be part of the political environment of his world, but he really doesn't like that. He wants to do something else. He says that he's a politician by obligation and a scientist at heart. So he lives in a world that suppresses individuality, and he wants to change this world, and at the same time to keep doing experiments in his laboratory. And it looks like he will be able to open a portal to another world. So why do we have books burning here? And why do we have a city crumbling around here with this huge fire? What does it mean? And what's it, this chapter that the protagonist is holding at hand? I love the aesthetics of this book. This gives me strong Victorian vibes, and I have to say that the book, the physical copy, has incredibly high production values with illustrations. And I think they serve to explain a few things of the world building. See? And then the pseudoscience of this world. There's a lot going on here. A lot of additional material. And I love the fact that at the end of the book, the author was so kind to send me this. We have a fine. Because it's like I borrowed this book from this library for this world. And then because I didn't return it in time, they want me to pay. It's a ticket. Okay. It's very nice. It's a very nice way to make a sign on a copy and to personalize for each and every one of the readers. So yeah, I'm going to read it pretty soon. The book looks incredible. The story is really interesting. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish reading it. The Wall by Penn. This is a dystopian novel about a world that it's divided, the society is divided between rich people that I think they live forever, or at least they live a very long life, and all the rest of the humanity that lives outside that world. And the protagonist and his love interest, they get separated, and they have to, the gist of the story is that they are on different sides of the world, and he has to pretend to be one of those of the high society that lives forever in this utopian world that it's inside the walls, and in order to get back to with his love interest. This is part of a trilogy. I think the whole trilogy is already out now, and I have a soft spot for dystopian novel, especially young adult dystopian novels, because I think the protagonist is pretty young. Yeah. But even if it's an adult, the complex, the concept of the world, since the early days of the Maze Runner series are so ingrained in my reader's mind, and I've been chasing that hide that was the first Maze Runner book for years and years, because that's a hill I'm going to die on. I think that the only Maze Runner book worth reading is the first one. Because it was so good, and the rest of the series was and yeah, this game gives me really good vibes. It's also an award winner, literary titan book. So yeah, I'm having very good vibes from this story, which is this one, short and sweet. I think the first one is around 250 pages, and the rest of the series is out. So if you enjoyed this one, I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy it. I can read the rest of the series pretty soon. Thank you to the author for this incredible review copy. And if you have read this, let me know what you think about it. We have 2 books by author Mike Mollman. These are reviews copies too. Thank you, Mike. They look really good. The first one is Becoming a Druid, which is kind of self-explanatory, because we have the protagonist who's training to become a druid, but something happens during his training, and he is basically cast away. He has to run away from other druids that they don't like him anymore. And the description says that he is hunted, has to make impossible sacrifices or lose everything to become a druid. And this one too is really well beloved. All the reviews that I've seen around, they say this is incredible, this is classic epic fantasy at its finest. And I can't wait to see what the fuss is about for this one. Yeah, I want to read it really soon. And then we have a sci-fi story, also by Mike Mollman. This is the Halley Traveler. I think it is set on Mars, because it says, yeah, Earth has fallen into chaos and Mars is a collection of bickering city-states. The protagonist is Chris Halley, an introverted teen. He's been separated by his family, and he must navigate through the murky world of Martian smugglers while seeking vengeance for his father's murder. Both are deadly propositions. I like the illustration, I like the vibes, and I love Mars. I have this boy crush for the red planet. Come on, we think about Mars the same way we think about the Roman Empire, of course. And this one has amazing, incredible reviews too. And I like the internal design. How cool does it look? Take it a look. Yeah, I think I'm going to read this one first. Yeah, if you have read anything by Mike Mollman, let me know. I also have a short story collection curated by Blake Armstrong, which is called Panopticon. This is a collection of stories about the way technology is controlling our life, but also potentially the way governments are using technology to control our life. It looks like a dystopian short story collection, and also it gives me Black Mirror vibes. You know, we have 14 different authors here, and it says science fiction from 30 seconds ago, so it's supposed to be pretty relevant to the actual state of things in our world. And every story is incredibly short, just a couple of pages for each of them. Yeah, I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish reading it. It's really intriguing. We have almost done. We have the sequels to Shadowverse, Eyes of the World by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is space opera at its finest, the modern space opera that I was searching. And everybody says that the second book is really good too. The first one was incredible. It was about this huge conflict between humanity and a couple of allied alien species against another huge threat from an alien species when they had traveling worlds. Those aliens are world shaped, and they had the ability to completely annihilate other worlds by turning them in some kind of works of art, of crystals and metals. and we have this huge conflict between Earth and a particular kind of human beings that are able to read minds of those aliens and battling them with psyops operations. But they also live a very peculiar life, a really hard life. They have to pay a hard price to be able to do that and to fight against those aliens. One of the things I was afraid going into this kind of stories is that the science fiction side of the things that Adrian Tchaikovsky wrote, they were so much of a hard sci-fi, especially for example Children of Time, that I thought that the character development and the human characters, they were not that interesting, and there was not so much to latch on, and I missed that. I thought that Children of Time was very good. I didn't care for the second one, I DNF it, but I can recognize that they're very good hard sci-fi stories, but I didn't want that. I wanted good characters, and I'm happy to say that we have incredibly good characters here. Especially in the first book. And I hope we'll continue to have that kind of character development in this one, because I love them all. all of them. They're incredible crew. So yeah, if you have read this, let me know what you think about it, and I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish reading it. The sequel to The Justice of King by Richard Swan. This is the Tyranny of Fate, the second book that by the authors in itself seems to be the better book in the series. So if you know anything about the Justice of King, it's about this really charismatic, really unique figure in this world, that it is also Vaughn is the protagonist, but it's not the protagonist. I'll explain you why in a moment. So we have this figure who's a judge, a jury, and an executioner in and of itself, okay? So he travels around this empire, gifting justice around the world. So if he decides that someone has committed a crime that is enough for a death sentence, he administers the sentence by himself. He takes this world and he cuts off everyone who's done something that it's unrepairable. There is a lot of political scheming there, because he has an incredible amount of abilities, of superhuman abilities, that are supposed to be just for him and all the other judges like him, but there's something going on, and there's suspicion that someone else will be able to have those incredible abilities, and at the same time there's a kind of an insurrection going on and a rebellion, and he has a pivotal role in the development of that kind of conflict. It's an incredibly good story, and I tell you that he is the protagonist, but also not, because the story is told by the point of view of his assistant, a young girl that he saved when she was really young, who was recounting the story of Vaughn, the protagonist, the other protagonist. So there's a lot of back and forth, because by the time she's telling the story, she's an old woman, she's a mature and old woman, and she sees everything by the lenses of someone who has acquired that kind of life experience. Okay, so it's really interesting, because it makes the narration really different from all the other epic fantasy, dark fantasy story. I wouldn't call it this grim dark by any mean, but it can be pretty dark. There are multiple plane of existence and a few moments that are really spooky. So yeah, if you haven't read Justice of Kings, give it a try. It's an incredible story, and if the authors he's right and this one is even better, this is probably going to be one of my favorite books of this year. So yeah, if you have read this, let me know what you think about it, and let you know what I think about it pretty soon. It looks insanely good. And the last one, I'm reading it right now, and it is the Exodus, the Archimedes Engine by Peter F. Hamilton. This is a space opera connected to a video game, which is the main narrative of the story, but it is also meant to be an independent story. This is the first book in a duology, so if you know nothing about the video game Exodus, you will enjoy the story too. But of course, if you're a gamer too, you will see that this is a foundation for what's going on or going to happen in the story. In the video game, I think this is set in the past if you compare the story to the video game, but it is in the very, very far away future, 40,000 years in the future, when humanity has evolved and we have different kind of humanity depending on how fast they reached colonies, because humanity they build arcs to travel and to colonize the rest of the universe. And the first colonizer, they had the time to evolve in different way, and who came last, he's less evolved compared to the others. And there's this racial tension, this conflict between different kind of human beings. And there's a special breed of human beings that are called travelers, that they travel around the world trying to keep peace. There's a lot of time dilation in this world, so they have to do sacrifice when they decide to travel away, because for them, months of years passed, but for the people that they left behind on planets, dozens of years pass. So they have to deal with the consequences of their traveling. I'm reading it right now, and I can tell you that in 30 pages it has an amount of research and world building that it's so huge, and it's so well delivered in such a consumable way. This is incredible, that I'm pretty sure it will be amazing and big, the kind of epic space opera that I love and enjoy, and that I wish I had the chance to read more, and I will probably read more because I decide what I read in this channel. So yeah, I'm going to try and read more by Peter F. Hamilton. This is the first book actually that I read by this author, and I'll let you know what I think about it as soon as I finish it. If you have read this, let me know what you think about it. So yeah, that was a really ambitious TBR for this summer. Let's see how many of those books I can actually read from here to, I think, September. But I also have an announcement for you, because a couple of days ago I shared the title for the sequel of my epic fantasy story, The Crimson Fire, on TikTok, Blue Sky, X, Instagram. I shared the title of Book 2 in the Memories of Kenji series, which is The Sunrise Dagger. This is the book that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks, and I'm telling you right now that we are almost at 190,000 words. So this is much, much longer than the first one. It has more point of views, more action, more traveling around the world, more political machinations and backstabbing, more emotional damage. This is shaping to be probably the best book that I have written, and I can't wait to share more, to tell you more about the story, and to share the cover reveal of this book, because the cover is already 99% ready, but I don't want to share it too soon. I don't want to spoil the surprise. I will probably show you the cover in September. Meanwhile, thank you for your support. Thank you for being generous and kind, for trusting me with your time, and for still being interested in my opinions about books, okay? And thank you for being here until the end of the video. Remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. And if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video. You can also support the channel by checking out my own epic fantasy story, The Crimson Fire. The link is in the description. And if you want to see more videos like this, like right here, right now, you have more videos right here, right now. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next one.